Alrighty, I'm gonna try and, no, I'm gonna do 2 videos. I was gonna pull out this book and go to 1984 and then read out a page, but I'm gonna not do that. I'm gonna try and, with what's available at hand, explain the actual situation that's going on. I'm gonna get a tripod and I'm gonna get a whiteboard. I think we're at that time. I think we need to start getting to that level. Because it's complicated. This attempted coup is hiding in its just slight complication. It's very hard to explain, and it kind of exists in this, like, everyone's busy. No one's not pulling their weight, so to say. Even that term is complicated. It's hiding in this strange place, and so I'm going to attempt to explain. My father used to explain to me certain things, like one of the things he would tell me, he would call them pantyhose, but I think like stockings, female stockings, right? He would use this as an analogy to explain things to me. And I don't know whether this is true, but it doesn't matter, it's a story. Apparently, there was, at some point, somebody developed long-lasting pantyhose or stockings for women. And, you know, this is this great thing because you just get 1 or 2 pairs and that's it. It's all you need. That company goes out of business because we then have, you know, it's a one-time purchase and that's it. And then, so we have certain things called planned obsolescence. So they make pantyhose or stockings deteriorate so that you will buy more. And there's a finesse to that. There's a perceived kind of happy place where that works, where the company can be sustainably profitable and produce a product that is suboptimal for its existence. And so it's like the base equation is we either don't have the product or we have a suboptimal product so it is sustainably able to be produced. Because the idea of having a fictitious entity that just produces to fulfill the highest level, unfortunately we're not in a place like that. We are potentially heading to a place like that. And this is maybe going to be what happens as we do encounter tools like AI and where we can outsource certain things to mechanization and optimism for the highest level. But that's complicated again as well. But what we now have here quite severely is a failure to put adequate restrictions on government. And because it is unbalanced, it is unaffected by economic restraints that would make unsustainable practices, that puts a pressure there to get rid of unsustainable methods or practices, or like systematization within a company that is under those restraints. Like, it has to be profitable. And this is why, so if you can kind of think of that as the pantyhose, you can imagine 2 fictitious companies where one made everlasting pantyhose and one didn't. Maybe counterintuitively, the superior product, the everlasting, fails in a capitalist society. And potentially in a socialist society as well, because there is without attention, you can imagine, sometimes the energy required to maintain even a system that is optimized to its extent and has a perfect product, there's not enough friction to maintain that service. And it gets, this is shown in the Soviet Union. These are the effects where we had, things like pricing, all these, it opens up just a crazy kind of never-ending series of problems, unfortunately. And this is the base, this is a basic analysis between socialist, communistic arrangement and a capitalist arrangement, both of them having massive flaws in their overall concept. When we look at government at the moment, and until we get, really, there should be a public register of the federal and state governments to their allocation of resources, particularly in staff, and the region, broken down to specific tasks and specialties that those employees are providing for the government. Because, I'm almost certain that we have a extremely, in business and the world I came from, if a business was like this, we'd call it top heavy. And we just have an out of control top heavy government. We have probably 400 times, like a factor of 400 times the amount of administrative and PR marketing type roles in government, because it is being used as an unofficial welfare system for a high, for a class-based system that had a vacuum of positions for those individuals to fill. And so I assume that demand and entitlement by families of resource, families that had enough resources and maybe enough political sway in the form of collective arrangements and things like that, have put pressure to fill perhaps obsoletely educated individuals into highly paid corporate-esque positions that the corporate world had that has engineered out because of they have a economic incentive to remove unnecessary liabilities to their company. So this is, if they can systematize and automate or outsource to technology, or even outsource to foreign countries, this section of administration and kind of soft roles in the PR marketing development. Government has stepped in to not as, say, perhaps in the physical or the soft, like the arts and things like that. These people are just being dispossessed and maybe given a pittance to provide them. These individuals that were educated and promised corporate roles that have been made obsolete by technology advancements, they are being buffered by a bloated government that is stepping in and providing these people with an unsustainable wage. And I think it's an astronomical figure. My assumption is that this is maybe 20, 30, 40% of government administration is going to unnecessary, obsolete roles that basically break down to PR and marketing in a government that has already won its position. And so this is unnecessary spending by its very nature. To have a government vying for position of authority and then using that on self-promotion, especially if it's being proven to be extremely biased down party lines, that is government-sponsored indoctrination at its very, and it is class warfare. It is individuals hiding from their obsolescence, and then that fact that is provided for them is increasing inflation for roles that don't fall under that protected safety net to enter that field. And that includes tradespeople, business people, and things like that. All right, so I'll call this take two, or part two, because I've probably got more to say. This whole system, I'm saying, where people are being, it's a little bit like it's when I said the other week about the tail wagging the dog. We need to lock into what is happening with if this money is being spent on promotion, PR, government money, and providing this safety net for corporately skilled but now unnecessary and obsoletely trained professionals from a corporate world. And unfortunately, this isn't a gender, this isn't an attack on any specific gender, but this seems to be an effect, if we can follow the trend of women entering the the workplace and having the what has been described as a misogynistic or sexist based thing of those individuals filling administrative roles, and then having an environment where administrative roles have been designed out. This is a problem that, from my perspective as a man, seems untouchable. It seems unapproachable in a politically correct way, and this is, I think, why it is being perpetuated. It is it's untouchable. It is defended with a vigor that has the combined, 2,000 years of female dispossession behind an argument that is breaking down to, if in business terms, or in productivity and optimization of a system, that is very dangerous. I've found myself kind of constantly in this. It's actually kind of a breakdown between, there's a lot of work been done in mapping down what the particular genders bring to each, what their focuses are, what their main drivers are, and having this level of... So the problem, I think, is there's a lot of precedent in working out the fact that we have parliament and we don't kill each other with sword. In its very nature, that is, yes, that's a masculine structure, but it's a de-escalating of violence masculine structure that shows evolution towards egalitarian and communicative and cooperative rather than destructive tactics and techniques. The fact that what I see is a basic, if things like gender and your bias towards gender, misogyny, all these things are taken off the argument, I see a very simplistic nuts and bolts kind of problem, and then similar with solution. Now, I don't think down gender lines. I can see how there was, it's supply and basic supply and demand. We needed, as businesses were going and becoming more corporate, more complicated with their interactions to do with law and being aligned with, say, safety and all these things. It's hard to tell whether. So that was the demand to bring women into the workplace, but those positions now seem to be they're like, they almost seem to be running off their own demand structure, where the fact that we now have a larger and larger population of women that wish to be employed at competitive rates, we're building systems in government that have almost like a designed-in need for administration and these type roles, purely just to employ. And because the government is in this process and they do claim to provide these safety nets in welfare, and it's like, you can see how this is like a dangerous cycle where government is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and less efficient and competent. And it's hard to know. It's hard to see solutions through this, but I think the main, if we can find that enlargement of those roles is having a detrimental effect on society and an ever-increasing bias towards a particular gender, then that's a very dangerous problem, and it's not a frivolous it's from where I see it, it seems like, unfortunately in my life, a lot of my interactions with women or discussions, or heated discussions, or like arguments or things like that, I haven't had a good track record of settling those with a surety, like almost zero. And so a basic design flaw being propped up on one side, and so like protecting a defective system with thousands of years of gender conflict is terrifying. As a pragmatic, practical thinking person, which I think men tend to be slightly more, not even slightly, quite a bit more practical and pragmatic in their thinking, this is very dangerous. This is nothing against women. This is just a very dangerous, like, to protect. It's almost like, imagine I made a frisbee, right? I've got 2 minutes. I made a kid's frisbee, and weirdly, the edges of this frisbee were too sharp, and it was cutting children's heads off accidentally. Like, they would throw it and it would hit their neck, and the children were getting decapitated by this frisbee. But say that frisbee was owned by a paraplegic woman, and so it almost like no one could talk about the fact that children were being, it's almost, if we imagine, theoretically, we go down a path of letting that go, oh, well, you know, she's paraplegic, and this is her business, and she's defied all odds to get to this thing, to build this successful business, and the fact that, you know, a few children are being decapitated, then we, you know, what are we to do? That's a bit of an outrageous example, but I unfortunately feel like that is very starkly kind of, and very, like, it gives me a chill. That is when I look at certain systems and structures of government, that's what I see. And it feels unapproachable. It feels defended beyond belief. It feels, we're protecting what, from my perspective, literally breaks down to just bad design. Think of glass doors, with things like finger traps. If you have doors that slam on kids' fingers, that's bad design. Doesn't matter whether a woman invented it, whether a trans person invented it, it's bad design, it's bad development, it needs to be fixed.